But a woman innately has seasons. She's going to have drastically different realities in different seasons. Part of the woman, part of the feminine is just getting aligned and being present within that season. And when a woman starts to fight it, and she starts to fight the natural feminine fluctuation, she's basically getting out of that feminine role and trying to be a man, so to speak, and trying to be the masculine.
This episode is based on a conversation that my husband and I had where at some point we turned to each other and acknowledged that this conversation should be had by more people. Every single couple in the world can relate. And the more we speak about it, the more we can come to understand one another and come up with practical solutions. In this episode, we talk about how a woman's state of being constantly fluctuates throughout the month, during pregnancy, postpartum, and in different seasons, her emotional world shifts deeply. And that rhythm isn't instability, it's part of the way she's created. And alongside that, we speak about the man's role, the giver, the steady presence, the rock, and how hard that can be, especially in those circumstances. And what it means to be the anchor of the home when emotions rise, what it takes to stay grounded, to lead with strength, and to show up consistently even when it's challenging. This conversation is about understanding both sides and about honoring the way that we were built, both man and woman, instead of fighting it. And how when each person steps into their role with awareness and responsibility, the marriage becomes a calmer and stronger and far more connected place. Because this is a part of life that's going to keep cycling. I hope you take away whatever you need from this episode and enjoy. Hi, I'm Hannah from Day in My Jewish Life. I grew up as the youngest of 8, surrounded by larger-than-life personalities, and in all of the noise, I often held my own voice back. But being the youngest also gave me a gift, the ability to listen and to take it all in. That shaped me into the person that I have become. Eventually, I was given the privilege of opening up my own Instagram platform. A space that pushed me to share my voice. I cannot even begin to tell you the countless ways that changed me as a person. And that's why I created this podcast, Day in My Jewish Life Unplugged. Here, we amplify voices that don't always get a mic. You're going to hear stories that are real, unpolished, and full of beautiful meaning. And my hope is that by listening, you're going to discover something that speaks to your journey. So join me here, where voices are heard, stories are honored, and every conversation has the power to leave you changed. It is Meir Horowitz back on the show.
You couldn't find anyone else?
Actually, many people asked for you back.
Oh, okay.
Upon popular demand, you're back in this chair. Also, like, conversations flow quite easily, and I feel like we really get places, which is important. And there's something specific we want to share, which came about in a natural conversation between the two of us, and on the spot, I was like, wow.
Right.
Like, imagine if people heard this and could feel not alone as a couple and as a human being. I just felt that the conversation was so human-like and relatable to literally every couple, every woman, every man. And it's not too private that it can't be shared. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity. So we're back.
All right. Sounds good.
So the conversation actually started with you bringing something up. And it's so true. And it also felt validating that as a man, you brought it up, because as a woman, it's one thing to say something about yourself, but when somebody else notices, it feels different. So what you brought up was the cycles that a woman experiences. And how, and of course you get the front row seats because you're married to a woman, but the ups and the downs, and how every single month you have a cycle, right? And in different stages of the month, you are feeling different ways. You have your highs and your lows and the crash that are out of your control. And you brought it up as a like, it must be really hard. And it's really crazy what you guys go through. And I fully resonate. And as a woman, it's actually something that is so painful. Like, to be perfectly honest, it's painful because you build yourself up to a certain point, and then you have your monthly crash that's natural and not within your control, and then you feel like you fully fell apart. And I know we're compared to the moon that starts full, and then it slowly shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, and that's exactly as it's meant to be, and then like literally almost disappears, and then rebuilds,
Right.
rebuilds, only to do the same thing
Right.
again.
Just when you finally get there,
Absolutely.
start shrinking again.
Yeah. And then we were speaking about what it's like to be married to that, and what the man's role is, and how he can be there while simultaneously taking care of himself and fully be in his role and experiencing the things that he experiences.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost like something that I've come to slowly, watching, our dynamic and the way things have gone. And it really, I genuinely meant it. Like it actually is like quite baffling to me. And like when it really like hit me during that conversation, I'm like, wow, it's so crazy because the whole message that we're getting from everywhere else and the whole like ways that we define what it means to build yourself up, to succeed, to grow something, to work on getting there in different areas of your life. It like there's something essential about the woman and her dynamics and her biology, her different processes, her different cycles of the monthly cycle, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and then again, and that there's something so innately non-linear. For a woman, like none of that really applies. Meaning, not that building things up, working, growing something, of course that all applies. But if a woman approaches life and approaches the things that her endeavors the same way that a man does, or the same way that of the broad general definitions of success, of the different messaging that we get that you're getting from like social media, just society in general, then she's setting herself up for this like really difficult situation where she's trying to achieve something that she innately like can't or shouldn't be.
Or she's fighting against herself, her own body,
right,
her anatomy
if
to achieve it.
If she does get there and she does achieve it, it probably came with a lot of sacrifices, and it probably came with a lot of fighting a nature that didn't need to be fought, and potentially neglecting other areas of her life that are actually more like her, and that are more where she was meant to be thriving, that she wasn't thriving because she was trying to take this linear path, even though she's so not linear. Nothing about
a woman is linear.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
The next thing we were talking about is, okay, what does she need? What's like a woman's anchor? Her husband. Like, what does a woman need most? A steady rock. Like a lot of people refer to, like, like he's my rock. Why? Because that's really what feels most safe, to have something linear. And then obviously the next sentence was like, oh my goodness, this poor man is experiencing a wife who's not linear, a wife who's constantly breaking down and building back up and breaking down and building back up. And hopefully, she's leaning into each phase of her cycle, whether in pregnancy, whether in, not fighting it like we spoke about, not giving into the societal norm of like success is straight and you should XYZ, which is a work in progress for every woman. But they're still experiencing the spiral and needing to be that rock. And you were talking about like how hard that is. I was talking about, and you were agreeing that to be that steady rock for her, and this is, we're talking in general, right? Like,
right.
But to be that steady rock is rough.
Right. Yeah, I mean, first to even go back to just the difficulty that it appears to be for the woman. Obviously, like you're my wife, and I see, what you go through, and I also kind of started to pick up on like your inner conflicts that you've been having. When it comes to
Why don't you share that with the world? I'm kidding.
so when it comes to no, if anything's too personal, it'll be cut out.
No, no. I also, it's not.
Like building up your Instagram, staying with your, posting consistently because
I'm supposed to be doing.
that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's what brings success. That's what brings engagement. And then also, the advertising piece, monetization of such a thing, like a certain pressure, like this is like the way it needs to be. And if I'm not doing this, and all these different like khishbainis, which are very based off of like what like linear success, like by the books looks like this is what you need to follow this step, build up like this, and like then you'll be getting to this, like you're again, it's all like reaching somewhere. But then like there's just different seasons of life and different cycles for a woman where like that's not there, where one's biology, one's emotions are totally not aligned with doing that. So, and also maybe just like time and childcare, and yeah, just different ways that like a woman could be feeling based off what's going on, where now there's this fight. Now there's this conflict because like I'm supposed to be doing this. And now I'm a failure, right? Because I'm not achieving, but this is so difficult. And then you get resentment about your own nature.
Absolutely.
And then people start to feel resentment about, and what do you think brings a big thing that brings resentment to having children, and why a woman might then be like, I need to delay. I can't do this. How am I supposed to do this? And you're right. Like you can't do that. You're trying to be the masculine and the feminine, and that's it. Way too big of a feat. It involves really like fighting your nature, and yeah, and it does become too overwhelming. And then how could one have more children? How could one do anything that adds to the more destabilizing parts of their life?
Absolutely.
And it just brings such conflict. And then it really, when a woman is not like aligned with her feminine, of being in her state of cycle, like being present with her cycles, being present with whatever her space is right now,
Stop fighting what season you're in.
her seasons. That's what we were talking about. Like I'm liking this analogy of seasons. I don't know if I heard it anywhere, but it just kind of fits. Like that's just this is just a season where that's what you.
I heard it from somewhere. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, right. There's just different seasons. Everyone has different seasons in their life. Men too, based off of different circumstances. But a woman innately has seasons. She innately just has different times of her life where she's going to have drastically different realities in different seasons. Part of the woman, part of the feminine, is just getting aligned and being present within that season. And when a woman starts to fight it, and she starts to fight the natural feminine fluctuation, she's basically getting out of that feminine role and trying to be a man, so to speak, and trying to be the masculine. And then when a woman starts becoming the masculine, that's when things get especially difficult for the husband. When the wife starts like taking on more masculine demeanor, like masculine lifestyle, because then naturally the way a family dynamic works is you need to have these different roles. You have a mother, you have a wife, who has her different things that she does and that she's present in, and now she's unable to, and starts like not even maliciously neglecting her role as a wife and neglecting her role as a mother, and forgetting like her entire like purpose.
Well, a piece that we were speaking about that can cause a woman to step into the masculine energy is when she doesn't feel the steady rock, when she doesn't feel safe enough or valid enough to be within her feminine flow and to lean into her seasons. She doesn't feel like she's able to be weak. I'm calling it weak without the negative connotation that comes with the word weak.
So what's a different word for it?
I honestly like the word weak. Like we're tender, maybe tender.
I think weak still coming from your resistance to this whole idea, like because it's like
We're tender.
because this is something that you're working with.
Absolutely.
Like it's not weak. It's not weak. It's like, yeah, tender might be the right
Tender.
word. Yeah,
Tender, vulnerable.
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 Hmm.
And when she does not feel her husband is steady, when she doesn't feel her husband is aware or able to hold the space of tenderness, of vulnerability, and kind of either physically pick up on the slack, or it's more mental, just understanding and like, okay, so lay low for a day. We'll order pizza, whatever it
Hmm.
is. Then she can't afford to do that if there's not enough masculine energy, and she needs to be that masculine.
Right.
And between you and I, we've been there, of course.
Of course.
Every couple has been there. And I feel it's something so important to talk about, because through the work that we've done, we realized this, of what was going on during those cycles, and how it's ultimately detrimental to both roles, both the masculine and the feminine.
Right.
I'm curious, and if you'd be comfortable to share, what was going on within you during those times? Like, let's say where um, I was in a tender, vulnerable state, whether pregnant, whether postpartum, first trimester, whatever it was, um, and you didn't necessarily know fully what was going on and how to deal with it, and then watching me become more masculine
Explain what you mean by becoming more masculine.
by feeling the need to like shove my emotions down and like show up in every way.
Being that men and women are opposite in this sense, it's already a difficult dynamic when, just for a man, it's a difficult dynamic and learning curve to understand how a woman, who he's now living with and growing a family with, works, right? So
And
that's
by the way, especially when the woman doesn't understand herself,
mhm,
step one, doesn't understand and
absolutely
isn't comfortable with her cycles.
right. So that for sure. I'm saying even like, let's say like she is, let's say things are like
That's already
regular.
hard.
There's already this innate difference, which is already really challenging. It can be very confusing, and it can be very like this person that you're now living with and does not really doesn't work the same way that you work in like any area, and there's really often a lack of clarity as to, like, why that's happening, what's going on. Like, is it something with me? Like, am I doing something wrong? Is she the problem? Like, did I marry someone crazy? Like that.
Absolutely.
That's and then yeah, and then all the more so when there's this like lack of comfort and lack of clarity, and it's not, a woman like not really like knowing herself in her roles. And at the end of the day, it's really the man's responsibility to be a man and to be masculine. And I'm a strong believer, and I have like Kabbalah and Chassidus to back me up on this, that when the masculine, when the giver is doing his part, then the feminine will will shine and flourish. And there is a caveat to that, and the caveat is if the keli, the vessel, which is the feminine, as the receiver, if she has her own either traumas, discomfort, or just lack of understanding as to what it truly means to be a keli, like what it means to be a receiver, what it means to be feminine. So assuming
Wow. Like is uncomfortable receiving.
yeah, there's so many things that can make a woman, to get to the point where she comes to marriage where she can't receive, and she shuts out anything that's given to her, and she has to be the giver. Maybe that's what she saw in her mother. Maybe there's so many different reasons why the keli could be blemished. So on the one hand, responsibility really is on the man, you know, when it comes to like creation, like Za, the energy of Za, Zar Ampin, which is like the masculine energy, the masculine creative energy, it flows into Malchus. Malchus, it represents the feminine, and it's through Malchus that the worlds are then created.
Wow.
So without Malchus, without the feminine, you can't have worlds. You can't have that creative energy that actually is taken into.
He gives and she creates.
He gives and she creates. She's the vessel to take that energy and then to create with the energy. Again, you see that in the cycle of life, of having children, and really in any area, and you see that in the actual creation of the world. So on the one hand, if without the man giving, you sort of have an empty vessel. A woman's just left with like a vessel. She's a vessel. She is what she is, but she doesn't innately have that masculine, like creative energy, that giving energy, that strong, powerful energy that for what it takes for there to actually like ultimately be new life.
Well, can I ask you, like, what practically does it look like when a man is not giving his creative energy? What is it, a man not within his power? Like, what, a man existing without giving, what does that practically look like?
It practically looks like often the man
Dissociating.
being the feminine, like the man being in his own cycles. The whole joke's like the man, like the man's on his cycle. Like it's like worlds sort of flip, and the whole thing flips, and then like it doesn't work out because
And she's like, 1 second, no, I need to be
he's
the man.
not being a giver. He's not being steady. He's not there. Coming in with a confidence, coming in with a steady happiness, coming in with the ideas of what they're gonna do that day, the ideas of the list of like things that need to get done, the plan to make money to support the family, and all these different areas that a man needs to take control and even to
And provide.
And provide and even just like supporting his wife's emotions, like all these different practical areas, which maybe you can bring up some more that you've noticed like within us that maybe I wasn't doing as well and then started to. You see a breakdown of the entire dynamic because now you basically have the creative energy, which is just becoming a feminine, and like the man's almost acting like his own Kaylee that needs to be filled. But it's not his wife's job to fill his Kaylee. It's his job to fill her Kaylee.
Well, very true. Really, all of it. There's one point that's standing out to me, like, what is this man, a robot? Like, every human being has masculine and feminine energy. I do feel and know that there is a part of this man that also needs to be filled, that also is a vessel. And if you're only in that mode of doing, showing up and being a rock, like that can get toxic very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like the toxic masculinity, the classic, toxic masculinity.
I don't care, I don't feel.
100%. And that's totally a very unholy version of it, and also a version that will lead to a dynamic breakdown. And honestly, just remember that. But just before getting there, I want to finish a thought, and that is that when the man is giving properly, and he's the giver, and his wife is receiving properly, meaning she's like in touch with her femininity and is a proper makabel and like wants to receive from her husband and sees him in that role, then look what the woman can do. Like the woman is the one who now is holding that child for 9 months. I'm using child because that whole dynamic is an analogy for everything, honestly. Like she's the one who literally can like yesh ma'ayin, like basically like
something
from nothing, create a whole child, give birth to a whole child, and all she needs is something very like seemingly minor from the man, and then look what she can do once she just gets that energy.
Whoa.
You will be taken care of. You as the husband will be taken care of
by her
if you're giving properly, and you can't be given with the expectation that you're going to give, and then she's going to create that child for you, meaning she's going to then provide for you tremendously, and she can actually do so much more than you're able to do. But if you're not giving, she can't do any of it. So that's like the weakness of the woman, right? Because without that just like initial spark or whatever it is from the man, whether that be physically, when it comes to child rearing, whether that be emotionally providing, whatever it is, without that, she's not going to be able to be in her like true feminine because she's not receiving anything. She's an empty vessel. So that's like the weakness of the woman. But the weakness of the masculine energy is so much more because it looks like,
they started it.
They're the doer, they're whatever, but but no, the woman can do so much more. They just need that spark of energy, and they can take it and make worlds.
And he's truly nothing without her. He can't create without her.
He can give, but when there's not a proper vessel to give to, when you're not truly giving to someone because they aren't a proper like Kaylee. I mean, that's kind of gets into a different discussion, but that's actually very demasculizing.
Wow.
Because I have this creative giving energy, but I have nobody to receive it.
She's rejecting it.
And right. So it's not that he's nothing. No, he still has the creative energy. He can still become a CEO of a huge law firm. He can still do lots of creative masculine things and do wondrous things throughout his lifetime in the world. But when it comes to giving his physical and emotive, energy, then if he doesn't actually have that proper Kaylee, then again, we're talking in the context really where somebody is married and we're talking about marriage, right? So we're talking about they are married and they have a wife and they have a Kaylee, but is not able to, rise to the occasion of being a receiver, then it's very demasculizing for the man. And why can't she rise to be the receiver? Why isn't a woman being a proper receptacle? Again, we have to most of the time assume that it's because the man's not giving enough. The man's not being a proper giver. And that if you're really, really...
She doesn't feel safe enough to be vulnerable to receive.
100%. You haven't set the scene. You haven't set the comfort and gotten her to a place where she feels vulnerable and confident enough in her feminine to rise to you.
What creates that? Practically, like really practically, if you could break it down. I mean, I guess first conceptually, but also practically, how is that accomplished? Because again, everybody has their seasons and so do men, right? Like have seasons where they're just weaker, whether it's circumstantial or mentally, whatever it is. But what creates on a man's end, like a man not giving her properly, not allowing her to feel safe? What does that look like practically? And also, how can he then, after not showing up properly, how can he then practically show up as a man?
Mm-hmm.
So she can feel comfortable to receive.
And then you can also add your other question, which is are we just asking him to be a robot?
Mm-hmm.
So what was the first question?
What can a man do practically to build up his trust with his wife so she can receive from him, if the issue is within the man, which you said many times it is?
What can the man do to make his wife a comfortable, proper vessel?
How can he make her feel comfortable and safe receiving from him? Yeah.
Well, there's really a lot to say on this, but some things that come to mind is maybe from my own experience, or one is giving without expectation of receiving in return, because that's not real giving, and that can be felt by the Kaylee that you're just giving. The woman can feel it you're just doing this, you're just giving because you're looking to gain from her. That's the whole other feeling taken advantage of, feeling.
Yeah.
So that's one big piece, and then there's, and this is again easier said than done, and this goes back to your question of, is the man supposed to be a robot? But there's this idea of the man being emotionally sound, being or more, let me say, regardless of how he's feeling emotionally, that he still shows up and that he still is being present for his wife, regardless of what he's going through emotionally. Meaning, in the moment, in the actual moment, he's doing what he needs to do. He's giving his wife what she needs. You're struggling emotionally, man. The man's struggling emotionally. Therefore, I can't go to work. I'm really not doing well. I just need to not work for these few months. Doesn't really work, right? It's very hard. You can't just take a few months off of work because you're not feeling well. You have a family to provide for, right? Or I'm feeling so depressed and I need to come home to a wife and kids, and I'm being relied on to bring this positive energy into the house. Well, what are we demanded, you still need to bring the positive energy into the house. You still need to work. You still need to bring the positive energy into the house. You still need to help your wife
Wow.
with the kid. No matter what you're going through, you still need to be showing up as this giver. While a woman, of course, still needs to be showing up in her role, but she innately is able to be, like, just be
So those are
more.
two huge things. And well, first of all, giving without expectation of giving for no reason. Giving because I'm the giver and you're my wife and I want to give to you. I want to give you time in the morning so you could sleep in. I want to order in pizza. I want, like, not so that you're going to be happy. And she'll feel
I'll
that.
let you sleep in, and then because I let you sleep in later when I come home from work,
Can you give me an hour?
you'll give me an hour with the kids. And like we all still do that. We're talking more ideally here, but yes, correct.
So number one, giving without expectation. And number two, and it's nuanced because I feel like in today's day and age, it's like, every emotion is valid and you don't want to be fake. You want to be authentic. I had a hard day. I need a 2-hour nap, which, like, there's time and space for that. And we're going to get to that. However, you, like, hold yourself accountable to being your wife's rock.
Yeah, your
Like,
family's rock,
don't-
your wife's rock.
Yeah. Like,
You still need to show up.
when people say, like, I never saw my father cry. I used to, like, see that as, and that may be extreme, but what is that messaging? Like, my father's strong. And there are times where it's healthy to see your father cry,
Right.
But
no, right now we're talking more on like the
yeah, we're talking extreme to prove a point,
right.
to, like, define the roles. But
Exactly.
there's something to that. Then, like, because otherwise, what's the alternative? What's the extreme alternative? I can't share this with him. I can't. Then it causes the woman to feel, I can't be feeling this way. I can't show how I'm feeling to my husband because he's going to fall apart.
Which is innately, by definition, not masculine.
Yeah.
If he's falling apart when he needs to be there for her and needs to be giving for her, that's feminine.
Okay, but tell me about this robot. That you're literally making the masculine role sound like a robot. And I also want to add something, that all this that we're talking about is years of work. I mean, we've been married 4 years, but
I'm not even nearly there. So.
but also we are both, I'd say a little bit, you more than me, very, very, very growth mindset. Where, as in, we've both been speaking to therapists consistently. And these realizations came about with the help of a phenomenal therapist and
Absolutely.
guidance and mashpiyim and reaching out for help, which, that work isn't done on its own. Those conversations are
without
not
tremendous struggle and tremendous failure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, like, I feel comfortable talking about this so clearly, and at least as we're defining terms and we're defining, like, when you're defining definitions, like, it's got to be black and white. You know what I mean? The innate definitions of who you are and what your role is black and white. Then there's a spectrum of your own personal situation and, like, how you navigate that, right?
Yeah.
Like, some men are just naturally more emotional. They're naturally more sensitive in their teva, or something happened to them, right? Which made them unable to maintain
that face.
not even the face, which really disabled them from being able to show up properly and to be able to keep pushing through even when they're experiencing negative things. And I feel comfortable talking about this because I am super emotional. Like, on the spectrum, I have a lot of femininity when it comes to this. Like, I'm a very emotional person, and for me, this was such a challenge. Like, showing up emotionally, showing up as the man when you are fluctuating, when you the man are fluctuating, when you the man have emotions, and you feel like falling apart, and you feel like, just so not
checking out.
You feel like checking out, and just it's such a conflict. That's what makes this really, really difficult for men in a certain sense, because you still, and may I argue, especially I've said this to you before, I feel like, not at all discounting what women go through, and we already have said how crazy it is. In a certain sense, like, in this, like, final generation before Mashiach, when the feminine energy is so
on the rise,
I don't think it's so hard for men. It's actually crazy because men are also like a lot more feminine nowadays, and that's not a bad thing. It's Mashiach energy. We're more in touch with our emotions. The feminine is rising. Feminine will be seen as the real power when Mashiach comes. So because Mashiach's
And
coming,
it already is.
and it already is. So like this whole thing that boys are too feminine nowadays. It's like, well, there is something to it. I'm not saying it could not be off sometimes. It needs to be, but there's something to it that men are more emotional. But men are not like what, in a way, like not what they used to be. In a certain sense. I work with teenagers. I work with bachrim. Like for sure. Like ask anyone who's been in it for a while. They're just made different today. So you're still expected to be the man, though. You're still expected to be the giver.
Like, let's not forget the principle.
To be the rock, to be stable, but it's so difficult because like it's everything's so feminine and about emotion, and that's like a good thing. You should like. There's also like it's amazing for a man to be in touch with his emotions, and that's really only by getting in touch with my emotions properly through like b'kavana, like intentionally through therapy, through different healing, and ultimately through chassidus and through learning chassidus in a way where I really engage my whole self and try
this growth that you've been experiencing is so directly linked with the extra learning and your focus in learning of chassidus.
Absolutely.
That you've been working on.
Absolutely. And I just actually was on a chassidus podcast where I for much longer at length touched upon it. I spoke about it at length. I'll touch upon it now, or basically, I learn chassidus, but I learn chassidus where it actually, with the intention for it to actually refine me, to actually help, to be my healer. The chassidus, which is like divrei Elokim Chaim, words of the living God. Who's the true healer? Hashem himself. And it can really heal me. But how can it heal me if I'm not rising to the occasion? If I'm not being honest about my emotions? If I'm either just in this feminine mode, where I'm just like all over the place, not in touch with my emotions, just, innately acting cyclical, where I just have all these ups and downs and all these things. It's going to be, or on the other hand, if I'm toxic masculinity, where it's like, and that's what I think a lot of people are like, and I think also it's more of the Hasidish, thing.
It gets me every time. Is that not my pet peeve?
No, I mean, let's just say it as it is, and it's something I'm seeing more. Like in a certain sense, it's like the more Hasidish that you are.
Who told you this?
This is something I've struggled with a lot, and this was a big
part.
Yeah,
but who told you this? Who introduced you to this? Who was it?
L'chaim. A big part of my journey, right, in becoming from and wanting to be a chassid and wanting to be chassidish, is I felt this massive contradiction of like, wait, I'm emotional, but the way everyone's like doing this whole thing is just like you just.
Basically, it seems to be that the more chassidish you are, the more emotionally shut down you are, right? Like every time you're feeling an emotion, just sing a niggin, like shut it down, like furrowed eyebrows, emotionally cut off, not very nice.
Or say some slogan, right? Say some Hasidish slogan about like, the reality, and just like 100%. And it's like a real like shutdown of.
And it's not everybody. It's a stereotype that we're calling out.
100%. And I feel I'm one of the last people who would knock down Chassidischkeit. I strive to be a chassid. I strive to be chassidish, but I don't strive to be this like emotionally shut down robot who every time it gets awkward, like just like sings a niggin or says some slogan that makes me feel better and allows me to ignore the discomfort that I'm feeling, or that I tell somebody else when they're bringing up a real emotional struggle. Like that's not the Rebbe and that's not Hashem, and that's just. And then when you learn Chassidus, you realize that's not Chassidus. Chassidus is giving you space to be a human. Chassidus, what's the whole idea? We came down here with a nefesh bahamis. An animal soul full of passions, full of emotions. It's not bad. It's just passionate. It's emotional. It craves physicality. It craves surviving. And anything that gets in the way of that, of what it wants, it feels threatened. How about
it's insecure?
How about like we get in touch with that, like get to know ourselves more, and when we learn, we actually recognize that. If you just sit and learn a mimer and understand it intellectually, I mean, that's great. You're understanding words of the living God intellectually, and that's amazing. And that will
don't stop.
Don't stop. That will have an impact on you. And if it's either that or nothing, do that. But let's not pretend that's the point. Let's not pretend that that's like the ultimate reason why we have Chassidus. Like, come on, we would be, that's such a diss to the Rebbe, and that's a diss to Chabad Chassidus, and it's a diss to Hashem. The whole idea is to refine, to actually bring those words, to refine your nefesh habahamis, to bring the elokus to your emotions. What is the elokus? What is this message from Chassidus, from this Maimer, from the Sikha, telling me personally, telling my emotions? I'm struggling with this area in Yiddishkeit. I feel resistance towards what this Maimer is saying. Like, great, like that's where the work is. That's where, like, if you, earlier in our marriage, when you would express like resistance to something in Yiddishkeit, something like Chassidishkeit, and you would, different things that you picked up, growing in the system.
Especially, by the way, especially that topic that we were talking about before.
Especially the emotionally shut down Chassidish guy who, that's something that, but I used to just feel like defensive and like judge you for it and be like, she's like not Chassidish, like she doesn't want to be Chassidish, like she's like knocking Chassidishkeit, or a certain area, let's say, that you have resistance to in SNEAS, or that you've had resistance to in any subject, right? Just that bothers you. So my whole thing, in the way how I used to look at that, and how I used to look at myself when things bothered me.
And you would never let yourself verbalize it.
I wouldn't even let myself admit it, because that's the very area where you're a problem. Mm-hmm. That's the very area where I'm a problem. Mm-hmm. I've realized it's the complete opposite. That's the very area where your avodah exists. The whole idea is dira b'tachtainim. Hashem should dwell in the lowest areas. What lower area exists than the area that you resist elokus? The area that there's a topic in Judaism that I am bothered by. That makes me mad. Wow. No. That's not a reason to judge you. That's a reason to be excited for you. Great. You feel resistance to, not you. And I'm just saying,
it also means you care.
It means you care, and you feel resistance to SNEAS. You feel resistance to benching. You feel resistance to Chassidishkeit, whatever it is. Like, that's the very area that you can take the messagings from the Torah and from our Rebbeim and bring yourself to them, like we're talking about, raising yourself to the giver, to the ultimate giver, to Hashem, to the Chassidus, and say, what is the message that it's trying to tell me? Even this part of me, specifically this part of me, the part of me that resists.
That's your propeller for growth.
That is your propeller.
Without it, how would you grow?
That darkness is exactly where you could bring elokus into your life, and that elokus never could have reached such a low place without you having had that struggle, and then worked through it, and then you have all the energy of the nefesh bahamis of that struggle. But now you see the elokus within it, and you've become more aligned with the MS.
Incredible.
So you're coming into the MS with so much more passion and energy than you ever would have had if you didn't have that first struggle and resistance to the topic.
So let's go back a second. You touched upon the fact that men are not robots, and especially in today's day and age, men, and it's a beautiful thing, have the feminine side within a man exists, and it should exist, and it's wonderful, and it's a sign of Mashiach's approaching, the ultimate redemption. That being said, my question is even stronger to you, and for the purpose of sharing your growth. That robotic expectancy of a man with all of his emotions. Like, yes, your wife is, as she should be, according to her biology, and Hashem should help her lean into it, right? But she is tender and vulnerable. And that propels you to need to show up in tremendous ways, you to keep giving despite your own hard times, giving without the intention of receiving back, and not showing the difficult emotions that you're having. Like,
and keep up with your own avodah, all of your own personal stuff, providing your spiritual stuff, your minyanim, your chitas, you name it, like everything. The answer is, it's so hard. It is like, it's a challenge I think about all the time. Like, men have such a crazy challenge.
But can I just say that I see you now happier and more content than I've ever seen you in my life. when you do the things that I was saying, like when you're working in those areas so much more, I just want to
What
say like
areas?
the end result, working in on showing up, on giving without, like the things that you're saying, I actually see in real time. Thank God.
And I feel it too. I feel much of a less resentment, much more in my flow.
Yeah, like I just want to say the result is
I'll
happiness
look
and more
back in the day
content.
and be like, whoa, I took care of those bachrim, this wife, those kids, that task. That it's like parnasa, like right, did so much, which could feel so burdensome and like this is so hard, and it is so hard, but correct. Like when you start getting like in touch with that masculine flow, it starts to all feel flowy. Like it just starts to feel like smooth, and there's a certain tainug, there's a certain pleasure in all these things that you're doing, and being this giver. But it's such a journey to get there, and it's so like step by step, and it doesn't come without struggle.
There's also a piece. So basically, you're saying try it, tap into your masculine energy, and I'm telling you, it's going to feel incredible. And this is all, you have the help, as in you have your people you go to, you have a therapist you're in touch with consistently. I'm saying like you're working out, you're taking care of yourself as well, but as in not without that, you still need your anchors. But
yeah,
what I was going to say is that before, I mean, this whole entire time we were speaking about black and white, like her definition, his definition. But we've spoken about this multiple times, but marriage is not 50-50. There are going to be times when a wife is going to need to give to her husband. And circumstantially, he's going through a really hard time, and you're going to need to give 70% temporarily. And that can be done when there are clear definitions already, and it's clear that this is circumstantial.
And correct. It's in a context. The wife has already experienced
Trust.
Giving. The receiving from her husband. She knows she's taken care of. And exactly, we all have seasons. Men too have seasons and moments and weeks, maybe even longer, when they just can't. By the way, like sometimes you just can't. What's an addiction? What's like an illness? When like it's just
you physically cannot.
You physically cannot. You emotionally cannot, and you can't rise to the occasion. And that's such an important point to bring up.
There's so much gray.
What we're talking about, correct, is like the black and white, like the way that it like ideally should be. But when things in life happen and those gray areas come out, and the man is struggling and he just can't, then that is a time for the woman to try to embrace the fact that like now is my time to step up for him, and I know when he's past this and I need it, then he'll step up for me.
Not for the sake of getting it back.
Not correct. No, not for the sake, but you have that comfort of knowing that will happen because that's what you've experienced.
You're already secure.
But correct, you can't both be falling apart at the same time. So there are times where if the man is not thriving, then the woman does have to step in.
And it should also be a conversation, I think.
Absolutely. Communication is everything with this. It has to be, the man needs to communicate what he's going through, and that, and the compassion that he has, but the fact that he's just as like is struggling. Men go through really difficult things also, and sometimes they just can't show up and they can't be that giver, but that is the time for the woman to step up, not to get resentful that her husband isn't giving to her like he needs to be, and she can still talk about it and maybe give some minimal expectations or things that she like really, feels like she needs him to push himself.
And that's all in the communication and person to person.
It's all in the communication, 100%. But yeah, like
I do want to say, like, even if you're not holding there, and so many people are not holding there are many couples, and ourselves included, for many, many years, that, this is foreign. This concept is foreign to them, and they may not be holding anywhere near this. Like, We were put on this earth to grow and to change and to work on ourselves little by little. So even
Yeah.
one, let's say for the woman, like one action within your feminine is massive. It's a massive
Right.
change that will have a ripple effect. Like if you're
Yeah.
struggling with that, like it's not going to happen overnight.
It's not about
And
holding there. I just want to get that out.
mm-hmm,
Like it's not. This isn't like, oh, I want to be like that one day. No, no,
sure,
no. You
sure.
could be like it right now. You can go and do that exactly what you're saying. You can go and do it
Yeah.
right now, and then you might fail the next day
Little
or the
things.
next hour.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
The next something else I wanted to say that we already touched upon in the beginning, but I think it's such a propeller and so important and vital for all of this to work is for the woman to have compassion on herself for the way that Hashem made her. And not like, oh, poor us. The opposite. Understand your cycles.
Not weak.
Yeah, right. You could tell it's new work for me.
Yeah.
But you were
I'm stepping
put,
into masculine is new work for me. I'm saying
yeah.
I'm talking. We're talking what we know, not necessarily what we often are or
But
practice.
understand the way that Hashem made you and lean into it. Instead of like, let's say your cycle's coming up, like prepare for it. Have you're going to be more vulnerable. Know that in your brain and it's not a bad thing. Expect it. There are ways to track it. Someone was just speaking about this over the weekend and like it has literally stuck in my mind so strong and it's my next mission in life to take this on in a real way, like really embody this. But she gave an example like, I sense my first trimesters coming up. And again, she's like, I was fully in line with my cycle, and I knew that I would soon become pregnant, right? And what did I do? I prepared. I froze meals. Like I was in tune with that time where it's usually ovulation phase where my energy is naturally up because
Right.
Hashem made it that way.
Right.
And I'm utilizing my energy. That's when we're creative. That's when we're flowing, like exactly as we're meant to be. And know that winter's coming. Know that your season of extra rest, your season of ordering pizza, your season of sending the kids on play dates. Your season of having your husband step up more is coming, and it is
Right.
not shameful. It's like those people who, can't sit on the couch and have a coffee because of the guilt. And then, like, how detrimental that is? Not just to you, but to your husband and to your kids and to you're killing yourself. Lean into your cycles. And I'm not saying that when you're in your winter, you can be obnoxious to everybody. I'm not actually, the more you lean into it, the less defensive you're going to be, the
Right.
less off you're going to be because you're not off. You're
It's the contrary.
exactly where you
If you
need to
don't lean
be.
into it, you're gonna come with a fire and you're gonna have all these negative feelings because you're fighting yourself.
And then spring comes. But like let's stop trying to be men. Stop trying to conquer all the time. Your season of conquering is going to come and it ebbs and flows.
Right.
And that's beautiful and that's you. And that's like I'm learning this as of today. Okay? I'm saying like it's only been a couple of weeks, but it's resonating so strong. And why am I like going back on this and honing in so much? Because I think women are constantly fighting ourselves, constantly fighting our cycles, constantly being pregnant means like you're weak. Even from the start of this podcast, I'm calling it weak, and you're like, "What's wrong with you?" But we're that's the narrative, and having kids makes me. I can't conquer. I can't like.
Right.
Maybe it's not your time to conquer in that way. Maybe success for you right. Not maybe success for you right now is sitting down,
Right.
slowing down, and there's such beauty to that. Such beauty in what that brings to your family and your kids and your life and your husband and I could go on and on. But the second point of why I'm bringing this up is because the woman being in her feminine creates a man. You are creating a beautiful vessel of yourself. And all he's going to want to do is give so that you can create, so that you can blossom, so that you can all he wants is to see you lean into yourself and in your what you can do, what you can create, what you can be. And he's just going to want to give and be there and be your rock.
And that doesn't contradict what we said that it's on the responsibility of the man. As the man, it's my responsibility to be the best giver.
Mm-hmm.
As a woman, it's your responsibility to be the best receiver.
Absolutely. Wow. I think that was, we kind of like replayed a conversation that we had, but
Right.
like brought out so much more.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that we did this, and I know this will be helpful to way too many people. It's a struggle we all have. It's a struggle we should still have because we're supposed to be struggling and growing and changing.
Right.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Does anything else like stick out that you want to leave off with? How about a message to the men? Because they're kind of soldiers in this.
This isn't like the big message, but it's just something else that comes to mind. As I get more in touch with my masculine and find myself giving more and doing way more in a day, I'm saying like push it, like literally in action, like doing so much more in a day, being able to be there for so many more people than I thought I could have been there for, and like going through my lists and just getting things done and like actually being present,
Conquering,
but in like not just like in a checklist way, like in a present way. I sometimes like find this like voice and this feeling of like I'm feeling a little self neglected, meaning because I still have this like part of me, and I always will. And like you shouldn't not, unless you're a tzaddik. But this part of me that's just like a self. That's a yesh.
an existence.
That's an existence, right? Like again, the Rebbe didn't have that, but like, and I can constantly work on like growing and and being able to be more in my role and like where I just naturally find like I naturally find I don't need my own like self check-ins and my own like self like pauses and nights of just for me and going and doing my thing. I used to do that a lot more. You probably realize that, right? So, but that's not forced. It's like, oh, it's not toxic. It's not like, oh, I can't do that. I can't take care of myself. I have to be a giver. I have to be the man. I have to be the rock, constantly giving. That comes natural. That's something that you want to build naturally. Through one's learning, through pushing yourself to do that little extra action, even though you don't feel like it comes. But what doesn't go away is like that need to just like get back in touch with like your pure like body, like emotion, like emotive self, but better to do it intentionally than to be forced into it. Like for men to be in touch with and like and to listen to their body and to listen to sometimes that voice that just says like I'm feeling like this is too much. I'm feeling resentful. I'm feeling like I haven't like just like done anything like for me, just like I need to like fill my cup a little bit. Taking intentional times to do that and that doesn't mean just sitting and scrolling on your phone. That's how most of us do it, right? Okay, kids are finally asleep, wife's busy. I need to just like I need my space, so I'm now gonna sit and scroll on my phone for 3 hours. No, that's the exact opposite effect. Doing intentional things that bring you back to just like, whew, like, like, like to myself. I'm not doing right now. And this is like an intentional moment where I'm not giving. I'm just like trying to have compassion for that animal soul inside of me, for that just like emotional yesh of a person inside of me that's a human and needs his space and needs compassion and needs to be heard. And again, I like to, exercising is a great thing, but then that I really believe this is where healing modalities come in. Not where they're your life, not where like it's all about always being in that state of
healing.
Like kind of the opposite actually. Like no, like you want to be in a state where you're thriving and I feel healed right now, but I'm not constantly healing. I'm actually constantly achieving and doing, and I'm in line and in touch with my purpose and my mission. So taking set times where you lechatchila, like from the outset, intentionally do that. Not where you're forced into it because you're now
'Cause you're falling apart.
You're falling apart because you're like giving over of yourself too much. But no, I am choosing to breathe. I'm choosing to do a breath work. I'm choosing to
Go for a run.
just whatever it is, some sort of like his budget, some sort of meditation, right? Just to do something, just like get back in touch with just like with me, you know, like say hi to that Yesh, you know, say hi to that me. And when I do that, that me doesn't feel suppressed, and the animal doesn't feel suppressed and feel ignored, and then it's not gonna like try to get you and pop back up at all the moments where you actually need to be really doing something.
You said hi, I see you.
Right, seeing it. You need to see it. See your natural
Wow. Wow. Thank you. I think we should literally end right there because that was really powerful.
Okay, thank
L'chaim.
you. L'chaim.